Okay, so this is the 4th episode of this series where we go back and look at Halo Infinite's cut content from the terrible development cycle that it did have. And this episode is by far one of the saddest ones that we've done on the channel to date. Now, in today's episode, we're not just going to be talking about missions, assets, and content that have cut from the game during development, but we're actually focusing on the size of Zeta Halo and how big the map was meant to be and how it was meant to play out. It was discussed in multiple interviews before the game did release that Halo Infinite was inspired massively on the back of an RPG type of game, an open world game with a lot of exploration, lots of different things that you can do and keep you interested and invested within the story, and just multiple things that you can consistently find around Zeta Halo. This would include things like new side missions, weapon upgrades and enhancements, character growth in more detail, such as upgrades to your actual character or the chief in particular. And the interesting thing about this is that if you look at the campaign, stuff like this is already there at very basic, but it is there, and you can see that this was actually going to be a thing. And we can see this in the evidence of armor cores, which is upgradable to your character. Also upgradable weapons as you gain valor and take FOBs and save marines. You can increase your valor and unlock different things along the way. Even in some sense, side missions when rescuing these FOBs and also those marines which are under fire as well. So as you can see, this is very basic in its current state, but previously we're going to talk about how it was actually meant to be. And you may shed a tear because for me, when writing this and reading about it myself, it was really sad to hear that we could have had a game that was meant to be as good as what we're about to talk about in this video. But guys, let me know in the comments down below what you do think of this video. Let me know what you guys want to see in Halo Infinite come for DLC, and do you think Halo Infinite will ever retain its original form or original vision? I don't know, but anyway, let's get into it. To start with, in today's video, I want to discuss parts of Zeta Halo that should have been in the game and that were meant to be there prior to the huge development crisis that had been openly discussed by journalists and outlets. So, in an article written by Bloomberg, who had exclusive interviews for the entire studio within 343 and had written this on the back of their meetings with the team, confirmed that 343 strived for Zeta Halo to actually be more like the game Zelda Breath of the Wild in the terms of its map being very similar to that. Now, for those that haven't played Zelda Breath of the Wild, I'm just going to add a bit of context here. Zelda Breath of the Wild is by far one of the best games ever made. It was my first ever Zelda and it was insanely good. Absolutely blew me away with how good this game actually is. And it's not just that, but the map on Breath of the Wild was absolutely ginormous. Like, it was absolutely full of amazing things like landmarks, biomes, quests from countless random people that you meet and learn their backstory and why they need your help, and new people that you meet and new places to explore. It was honestly a breath of fresh air and one of the best games I've ever played. The size of Zelda's map is approximately, give or take, around 139 square miles in diameter. Now, to put that into perspective, Skyrim's map is 15 square miles in diameter. Oblivion, which was the Elder Scrolls before Skyrim, 22 square miles. GTA 5, a map that everybody thinks is super big, only 30 square miles. That just puts into perspective how big Zelda's Breath of the Wild's map actually is. It's ridiculously big, but there's a purpose for that. The purpose being that you can literally do whatever you want, whenever you want, and you can go to one end of the map if you really want to. But the main part of Zelda is that when you progress through the game and when you progress through your missions, side missions, you rank up your character. You can increase your health, you can increase your armor, you can increase your weapon stats, you can find out how to create new potions and different things along these lines as well. And that builds you up and gets you fit and ready to explore the different parts of the map. Now, let's look at Zeta Halo and compare the map size to Skyrim, for example. We don't have any numerical values telling us how big Zeta Halo is, but Skyrim's map is much bigger, and I can tell you that for a fact. So, to put that into perspective, you can fit 9 Skyrim maps inside of the Breath of the Wild map, and it still wouldn't cover all of the surface. So, how many Zeta Halos could we fit within Breath of the Wild? And this was an article written by Bloomberg, and they specifically mentioned and referenced Breath of the Wild in terms of map size, which is outrageous to think that the map could have been 139 square miles long, which would have been amazing for exploration and took Halo to the next level, and we probably still would have been exploring the map right now and still finding new things about the game. This could have also meant, from a campaign perspective, exploration can lead to finding out more things that happen to things like the UNSC Infinity. If Halo Infinite's map was 139 square miles long, we could start in one place but could take us 20 hours of gameplay before we came across the UNSC Infinity, for example. But then someone else could do that in literally 5 hours or even the first half an hour. Exploration would benefit finding things, uncovering different parts of the lore around the story and around what happened to the Infinity, going inside the Infinity when we find it, finding audio logs, finding crew members standing around that you can interact and speak with, terminals, even notes left by crew members, Marines or Spartans. It's stuff like this that would have made Halo Infinite one of the best games, I believe, of all time, with things along the lines of abandoned structures, of course, as well, adding a horror vibe to the game, and having exploration as a top priority. This game really could have been next level, but unfortunately, as mentioned, the development issues did hinder the game massively. So let's talk about potential on the map size in Halo Infinite if development had gone successfully. How would the map have looked, what would have been on the map, and what could we have done on the map that would have been different to what we could have done right now on Zeta Halo? Well, Halo Infinite took 2 full development cycles to what a Halo game is typically in development for. Typically a Halo game would come out every 3 years or so, and Halo Infinite took a full 6 years before we heard of Infinite. However, the one thing you guys have got to take into account as well, that Halo Infinite did not take 6 years to fully develop. This game was done in 2 to 3 years tops. Since 2016, this game has been in development pretty much all that way, up until 2018. The game was a complete mess, and this was reported by many outlets, with reports of 4 different teams working on essentially 4 different separate games or projects, which did not link together and create one game at all. From 2018 all the way up until 2020, the studio had to seriously pull it together, with the game being delayed an additional full year after Joe Staten persuaded Microsoft's board to do so. Else the game would have looked awful in comparison, as we'd seen at the E3 demo of that gameplay, which, yeah, a lot of fans were not very pleased with. When this game was initially storyboarded, they even said back in the day in a few interviews that, if I can find them, I'll put them on the screen right now, but 343 were toying with Halo moving partially to an RPG genre. Not fully moving over, as I mentioned earlier in the video, but partially moving over, bringing a lot of aspects of an RPG into Halo. I mean, we can see a lot of those in the game at the moment, as we had already spoken about, but with there being a completely open world main story, this would have really suited Halo. And I don't know, I think they removed a lot of it because it didn't feel like Halo. And I think Joe Staten mentioned that in a couple of the interviews that they did before the game had released, but it would have been cool, right? But yeah, with there being a complete open world main story, this would have also opened the path for different side quests, and also having different missions on the side as well, having puzzles in caves, which were meant to be a thing, which were removed from the game due to development issues. Have you ever wondered why you walk into a cave and it's so well done, thought out and carved out into Zeta Halo? Well, there were meant to be puzzles in there that gave you different things like upgrades and armor cores and weapon caches and things, but these were all removed from the game in a last-ditch effort to polish and get this game ready for launch. Not to mention this as well, but we would have had fully upgradable weapons, armor, and also vehicles. But again, all of this was scrapped in place of the very basic versions that we have in place right now, due to the feeling very far from Halo, as we mentioned earlier on, and this was mentioned publicly in a statement by 343. Halo Infinite was theorized to be a place where you could jump in and have endless areas of exploration, a map that will take you an hour to walk from one side all the way over to the other, having different terrains, biomes along the way, live events in game like maybe a volcano eruption, lava infested biomes, actual wildlife running around the map that you can kill and earn materials to upgrade your gear, weapons and things like this, even bases you've captured. Bases that you could just take over from rather than banished, or just generally places that were completely overgrown by nature, or places you can go and scavenge for resources, such as crates, different lockers, rooms, and things like that as well. Things like day-night cycles, rain, snow, fog, wind. All of this stuff is in Forge, and it was meant to be in the campaign, but it was cut due to the polishing of the game and to try and get it out the door as quickly and as polished as possible after that 1 year delay of the campaign. All of this content was cut from the campaign and will be present in Forge and potentially even in DLC as well, and I presume that it will be available within future DLC moving forward. But it was all to do with 343's ambition to make an amazing game, and we've said this with Halo 2 as well and in previous cut content videos. It's not 343's fault that they wanted to make the best game ever. We can only thank them and applaud them for trying to do that. Again, they've run into a lot of issues along the way, and that was really unfortunate on the part of Halo, and Halo Infinite has suffered as a result of that. But striving to make a game of that much detail, as we know, is not easy. I mean, look at how long Rockstar take to make and release GTA. It's been nearly 10 years since GTA 5 was released, and we've only just had an announcement for GTA 6. However, the Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in production for almost 6 years now. Again, I can guarantee they've ran into some rough parts, but the majority of that 6-year period, I can almost guarantee that they've had a full plan along the way. From day one until right now, they knew exactly what they were doing. With Halo Infinite, as mentioned previously, 4 teams working on 4 different projects that didn't really link together, so essentially the teams had to start from square one, which meant that the game has ultimately suffered, and that 3-year time has not really helped or benefited the development cycle of the game. But this is how much time and dedication that a well done, polished RPG game requires, or a game that has RPG elements anyway, like side missions and different things like this. If Halo Infinite had the full 6-year development that Infinite really deserved and that it was meant to have, the game would have been drastically different. And 3 months from launch, we would have all still been exploring, finding new things, and enjoying ourselves during the campaign right now. I mean, the campaign was good as it is, and I applaud them for what they've done and how they've turned it around and made it into what it is, because I really enjoy the campaign. I thought that despite all of the unanswered questions, there's a lot more that's going to happen in the campaign. They've left it completely open for DLC, which I'm really looking forward to, and it is a 10-year plan, so this game will be, for the foreseeable future, the way to play Halo Infinite and where all the new content is going to come from. But also things like Forge, custom games, theatre, game modes, etc. that should have been in multiplayer at launch, which are still not there right now, probably would have all been there at launch as well if Infinite had the full 6 years and had a full plan on how to release content, and they would have probably had 2, 3, 4, 5 DLCs pretty much already finished and created right now. But guys, I want to know your thoughts on the matter, taking the points into account that Halo Infinite and Zeta Halo should have been the same size as Zelda Breath of the Wild's map, which fits Skyrim's map inside of it 9 times over, had side quests that were optional to expand the lore, and side missions that you could play and then learn more about the game in general and what happened to different things like the UNSC Infinity, and potentially even found and came across characters that had landed on the back of the ship crash landing. Prioritize exploration around the ring, upgradable gear, weapons and vehicles, terminals, notes, messages that give you more information along the way, live animals traversing the map, dynamic weather, a big one for me, rain, fog, snow, wind, all this sort of stuff, biomes like volcanoes or just generally snow, sand biomes, things like this as well. How do you think Zeta Halo would have been compared to what it is right now? 3 months in, are you satisfied with the game in its current state? Let me know down below in the comments. But guys, this is a very different video to my normal cut content series, but it just goes to show what the game could have been, what was cut, and the terrible development experience the game went through. Guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. We're very interested to know. I love doing these videos, and it gives us an idea around what Halo Infinite should have been compared to what it is right now. But guys, have a great rest of your day, speak soon, and take care.